You feel it right now, don't you? That strange, heavy, unexplainable certainty that someone is intensely, obsessively thinking about your existence. This is not a passing, fleeting thought that briefly crosses their mind like a harmless shadow. This is something infinitely denser. It physically registers in your somatic nervous system as a sudden phantom presence you are actively carrying, even though you never explicitly invited it in. It settles deep between your shoulder blades and your throat, a soft, insistent, suffocating weight that completely refuses to ask for your permission to occupy your energy. Perhaps it is someone you had a very recent interaction with. Something that looked perfectly simple and ordinary on the sterile surface, but contained a heavy, loaded glance that lingered just 1 microsecond too long. A casual text message that appeared completely harmless to the naked eye, but that you frantically reread multiple times without consciously knowing exactly why your brain absolutely refused to let the syntax go. Or perhaps it is someone you have known for an extended period, and suddenly, completely out of nowhere, a massive tectonic shift occurred in the dark, silent space between you. Something incredibly subtle, almost entirely imperceptible to anyone else standing in the room. But your nervous system caught the frequency. What you are physically feeling right now. This absolute, undeniable certainty that a profound psychological mechanism is actively turning behind the scenes, that something was violently awakened inside this specific person strictly because of your presence, is absolutely not an illusion. It is not your desperate, unhealed imagination frantically seeking exactly what it wishes to find to medicate a void. Something incredibly real just detonated, and deep down in your bones, beyond the reach of human logic, you absolutely know it. Today, we are going to completely pull back the heavy curtain on this dynamic. I am going to reveal exactly what you accidentally triggered inside them, entirely without your conscious knowledge, and precisely why deep psychology explains this terrifying phenomenon in a way that will permanently alter how you navigate human attraction. Jung discovered a terrifying truth. A human being can fall madly, helplessly, overwhelmingly in love with you without ever logically understanding why, and frequently it happens entirely against their own conscious will. Exactly what you triggered inside this individual possesses a specific, incredibly powerful title in deep Jungian psychology. It is called the violent activation of the Anima or the Animus. Stripped down to its absolute clinical core, here is the brutal, beautiful psychological reality of exactly what that signifies. Deep within the dark, inaccessible subconscious of every single human being on Earth, there lives a hidden, internal avatar of the other. A silent, invisible, haunting figure of the soul built completely from the shattered fragments of early childhood development, formed by ancient, unhealed wounds, shaped by starving emotional desires, and heavily fueled by exactly what they desperately needed to survive, but never received. This invisible ghost spends its entire lifetime silently searching the crowds, desperately scanning the environment to finally locate its physical face in a breathing human being. Human beings absolutely never fall in love with another physical person in the strict logical sense of the word at the very beginning of a dynamic. What the human mind actually does first is violently recognize something inside the other person that it has been heavily carrying within itself since the dawn of its own awareness. An inner image, a desperate, starving figure of the soul, silently waiting in the pitch black to finally find a host that perfectly matches its frequency. This specific psychological observation permanently changes absolutely everything you thought you knew about the mechanics of love. It signifies that the most powerful, inescapable attraction in the world, the exact kind that settles permanently into your chest without warning and refuses to leave, is absolutely not produced by what you do in the ordinary, performative sense. It is entirely produced by exactly who you are, or rather, by exactly what you accidentally revealed about your core self. Often entirely unknowingly, often in your most unguarded, beautifully involuntary moments when the mask temporarily slipped. You must understand this right now. You are absolutely not broken or manipulative. If someone loves you in a way that violently overwhelms your nervous system, and you carry absolutely no heavy guilt, if someone rapidly develops a crushing, obsessive feeling for you that you did not explicitly, verbally ask for, exactly what you naturally wear on your sleeve, exactly what you silently express with the micro-expressions of your eyes, even completely unintentionally, can crash into someone else's soul in a way that neither of you truly controls. This deep psychological phenomenon is heavily documented. It is undeniably universal. It powerfully transcends all cultures, eras, and conscious boundaries. Every single human being carries this hidden ghost within them. It is a deep, load-bearing psychological structure. It was built brick by agonizing brick through their earliest, most vulnerable childhood experiences, through deeply loved or tragically lost figures in their past, through exactly what they chronically lacked, and exactly what was given to them completely without reservation. This internal ghost is incredibly, ruthlessly demanding. It silently waits, it heavily observes, and the vast majority of the time, it absolutely never finds exactly what it is desperately looking for. It encounters hundreds of faces, thousands of highly curated, fake personalities, countless physical bodies, and it remains freezing cold and totally dormant. Nothing fits the complex, ancient lock, and then, on one random, seemingly ordinary day, something massive occurs. You physically appeared. You casually said something. You looked at them in a very specific, unguarded, raw way. You expressed a brutal, unfiltered truth in a particular resonant tone of voice. You carried a heavy quality of sovereign presence that their hidden, internal ghost violently recognized as its own perfect, flawless mirror. In that exact split second, something completely awakens. Not slowly, not gradually over time, but suddenly with a massive, blinding intensity that completely shocks and terrifies even the person actively experiencing it. You perfectly corresponded to the starving avatar living in that person's inner self. You completely expressed a quality, a heavy silence, a beautiful, unapologetic way of existing in the physical world that resonated perfectly with what they had carried within them for decades, without ever locating it in reality. Perhaps it was your rare, brutal way of telling the absolute truth in a synthetic world that constantly safely lies. Perhaps it was your heavy quality of presence, that incredibly rare way you have of truly, deeply being right there in the room, completely, without dissociating into your own head. perhaps it was a raw, bleeding vulnerability you expressed entirely without realizing your armor was down. The most critical, foundational concept to integrate here is this. It was not what you logically calculatingly said that created this deep obsession. It was not a seductive action you physically executed. It was exactly what you revealed about your core self in an unfiltered, accidental moment of profound truth. Their deep unconscious clearly saw something hiding directly behind your eyes, and the human unconscious absolutely does not lie. Somewhere deep inside your own gut, you absolutely already knew it. Not consciously, but something ancient within your own nervous system recognized the shift. You knew it in that heavy, loaded moment when you physically felt the atmospheric energy shift in the room. You sensed that something had permanently, irreversibly changed in the exact way that person looked at you. A slight, lingering lengthening of their gaze. A more refined, intense, burning attention in the exact way they processed your vocal frequency. A completely different quality of heavy presence exactly when you were standing near them, as if you had suddenly become infinitely more real, more dense, more alive to them than absolutely anyone else on earth. You physically felt the projection land on you. You simply lacked the psychological vocabulary to logically interpret it. Long before your rational head caught up to the reality of the dynamic, your soul had already heavily registered this permanent alteration. Here is the brutal truth that Carl Jung would lay perfectly bare for you. The quiet, terrifying clarity that is the ultimate, undeniable hallmark of what is absolutely true. The harder you actively try to artificially create attraction through manipulation, the infinitely less you will ever actually activate it. And the more you simply, bravely, unapologetically exist entirely as your sovereign self, the more you violently trigger exactly what no cheap psychological strategy could ever possibly produce. Let that deeply sink into your bones. It violently contradicts absolutely everything modern culture aggressively teaches us about seduction, about securing love, about how to correctly be desired by another human being. We are actively, constantly taught to perform, to carefully, meticulously present the highly filtered, perfectly polished version of ourselves. We are falsely taught that deep attraction is a house you build, a highly calculated, shiny prize earned entirely through massive, exhausting behavioral effort. Depth psychology proves this is completely missing the essential, raw truth of the human soul. The deepest, most inescapable attraction is absolutely never produced by a fake performance. It is entirely produced by raw revelation, by a terrifying, beautiful moment when something incredibly true within you appeared entirely unfiltered, without calculation, without the heavy, suffocating armor we all constantly wear to survive the modern world. This massive psychological process, this complete activation of the inner ghost through authentic presence, unfolds in 5 highly distinct, predictable phases in the deep soul of the person experiencing it. First, the unconscious disruption. Something massive fractures inside their daily architecture, and they absolutely do not yet logically know what it is. They do not label it love yet, but something has permanently, quietly changed in the exact way they act when your frequency is near. It is imperceptible to the surrounding crowd, but you physically feel it because your nervously system is perfectly tuned to the exact same frequency. The ghost has been activated, and it absolutely no longer falls back to sleep. Second, the starving orbit begins. The heavy, silent disruption instantly creates a starving, desperate gravitational need to clearly see you again. Understanding exactly who you are has powerfully become a psychological necessity that the unconscious mind violently forces onto their conscious reality. This person starts to look for absolutely any excuse to be in your physical space. A random message sent for a reason that entirely lacks urgency. A strange, lingering question asked to which they already possess the answer. This is not cheap, conscious manipulation. It is their starving soul desperately seeking to verify what it deeply believes it saw in your eyes. Third is the golden projection. This is the most intensely beautiful and highly fragile psychological phase. The inner ghost, now fully awakened, begins to project all the magical, flawless, divine qualities of the internal avatar directly onto your physical body. It absolutely no longer sees you only as you physically, humanly are. It sees you completely through the heavy golden filter of exactly what it had always been searching for. You may suddenly notice a form of entirely excessive, hyper-focused attention paid to absolutely everything you do. A massively heightened sensitivity to your shifting moods, a heavy tendency to passionately interpret your most ordinary, mundane actions as being imbued with deep, cosmic meaning. Fourth, the terrifying confession. Jung deeply observed that every single profound relationship heavily begins with massive projection. The true maturity and survival of the relationship are accurately measured by the painful ability to slowly strip that heavy projection away and safely see the other person exactly as they truly, flawedly are. At a specific breaking point, this person does something they might never have done with anyone else. They completely, terrifyingly reveal themselves. They tell you something incredibly honest, deeply personal. They drop their own armor. It is the natural progression of the human soul when it finally recognizes someone who feels deeply, inherently trustworthy. Fifth, the ultimate bifurcation. The intense connection is now standing at a massive structural crossroads. Only two paths are psychologically possible, and it entirely depends on how you choose to respond. This single response will determine whether this deep connection can actually stabilize into something real. If you bravely continue to be completely real, expressing the exact, authentic quality of presence that triggered the activation in the first place, the heavy projection slowly transforms into real, unshakable, grounded knowledge. The inner ghost finds in you not just a flawless, fake mirror, but a real, breathing presence who can safely answer it. But if you get scared and start performing, if you frantically try to artificially live up to the flawless image they temporarily have of you, the deep unconscious instantly senses the fake difference, and the connection shatters. But here is exactly what Jung would add to this massive equation. Long before desperately trying to logically understand exactly what this person heavily feels for you, there is a much more fundamental, brutal question to ask. And this massive question concerns absolutely only you. What exactly do you truly feel for them? Not what you falsely think you should feel to be polite. Not what society dictates is appropriate. What do you truly, deeply feel in the complete, heavy silence of the night, when absolutely no one is watching you. According to the laws of depth psychology, massive resonance is rarely, if ever, unilateral. When someone's deep soul is violently activated by you, it is incredibly often because something completely unhealed within you has also been violently activated by them. Perhaps it is a truth you actively, frantically avoided ever naming, because fully naming it would deeply, irreversibly complicate your current life. But the deep unconscious absolutely does not lie. If you deeply feel that strange certainty, that heavy, undeniable weight you physically carry exactly when you think of them, you are not just passively observing what is happening within them. It is also something massive, completely happening within your own architecture. Jung would speak here of the massive, unavoidable responsibility of individuation. Becoming fully, authentically yourself involves acknowledging exactly what you feel with the exact same brutal honesty you would desperately want others to have with themselves. You absolutely cannot ask someone to be completely real with you if you are not brutally real with yourself first. This total, uncompromising honesty towards your own deep feelings, towards what you desperately want, towards exactly what you are truly ready to offer. This is the terrifying, beautiful work this situation actively demands of you, not safely managing the other person's obsession, but completely, fully, unapologetically knowing yourself. The most incredibly powerful attraction cannot be maintained by long-term fake performance. It can absolutely only be sustained by pure, unadulterated truth, your absolute truth. The exact one you have perhaps been heavily carrying in complete silence for far too long. You powerfully carry something within you that violently touches people. Something you may not yet see clearly when you look in a physical mirror, but someone in this exact heavy moment clearly sees it, and exactly that profound look that beautifully recognized you deserves to be safely met with the exact same brutal honesty as it is beautifully offered to you. Exactly what you have awakened in someone else is a flawless reflection of exactly what you deeply carry within yourself. And exactly what you carry within you is completely real, incredibly precious, and absolutely deserves to be fully, beautifully embraced without fear. If this deep dive into the psychology of unexpected connection finally helped you understand what is happening behind the scenes of your life, I want you to go down into the comments right now and tell me, what was the exact unguarded moment you realized you accidentally dropped your mask around them? Break down that specific moment. Then, please click the video appearing right here on your screen. It perfectly covers exactly how to navigate the overwhelming intensity of an activated connection without losing yourself in the process, and it is beautifully designed to give you exactly the psychological framework you need to hear next. Stay grounded, honor your worth, and keep moving forward.